Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome on in to the next installment of our Star Wars Clone Wars final season review. I'm joined yet again by my man POISOnkill over here. Poison, how are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic.
All right, glad to hear it, my man. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump right on into this episode. No reason to wait around. This episode is called Together Again, and it's episode 8. All right, and I was very happy with this episode. All right, so we always start off with the quote from each episode, right? First quote, and the quote from this one is, "You can change who you are, but you cannot run from yourself." What did you think of that?
I like it. I mean, at first I was kind of like, that's really subjective, you know, but as I began to watch it again, how it ties in really well to the episode, I enjoy it. They're 8 episodes in, they're getting really good at this.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I was concerned that because I was pretty sure this was going to be the wrap up to this arc, right? And I was concerned that I wasn't going to be getting like enough meat, I guess, from this episode, so to speak, as far as story goes. And I was like, I don't know if this is gonna pan out well, if this is like not. I wasn't sure, but I was pretty satisfied with the conclusion to this that we got. I will say, however, I still think Trace's character is a complete idiot. I think that I didn't buy into her naivete. She just seemed too stupid to me. I didn't buy into how stupid they were portraying her. Like, it's not as if like I thought like her character was bad. It's just I didn't like the way that they wrote her character, because I understand there was supposed to be that sense of like, oh, she's younger, she doesn't really necessarily she's still kind of trying to get a grasp on the world around her, but it didn't sell for me. So I would say that's probably my biggest criticism of this arc as a whole. And I'm curious to know kind of what you thought about just what strengths or weaknesses did you think of the characters in this arc as a whole? Curious to know.
Rafa stood out to me again. I think Rafa's one that got in the most in this case, because at one point she says, you know, you may not think you're a Jedi, but you act like one. Rafa was really speaking to Ahsoka's heart, which is two things for me. Firstly, it was nice to see this arc kind of not come to a close 100%, but really find its, hey, we're almost out the door, you know. Find it come to that close, but not for nothing in terms of some of the main characters that we've been watching for years with the series. To watch Ahsoka have a truth bomb dropped on her, and now to see her reaction was really nice. I liked how Rafa approached that. I like to kind of see how the whole spice trade is flipping, and their perspectives are changing. They're not just in this for the money and all this kind of stuff. They kind of see the ramifications for their decisions. So watching this arc actually be reflected upon as it wraps up, I'm as bitter as I kind of came across in some of the other episodes. I'm really liking what they're doing here.
Yes, I'm with you there. And I think that Rafa, the dynamic between Rafa and Ahsoka, I really ended up enjoying the most out of everything in this arc, I would say. Because like I think Rafa was honestly, to an extent, this is my take on it, trying to convince herself that what she was doing was for the good of her and her sister, right? I wasn't. She was always going like, "Yep, this is what we're doing. Like, this is we're gonna stick with our path, and this is what we're doing to make it by." But I wasn't sold that she necessarily believed it. At least not 100%. And I think that the conflict between Ahsoka and Rafa kind of seemed to bring that out a little bit. That was my take on it. I don't know if you think that's on point, or if you think that's a little bit far-fetched, but that was my view on things. And I would like to say I totally called that that the Pikes were in league with Maul, I 100% called it. I was like, yeah, hey baby, the general knows what he's talking about.
When Maul popped up in the hologram, the first thing on my face was Darth Maul.
Yeah.
I was excited to finally freaking see him.
Yeah. So I'm excited for the episodes to come. I know that we're going into the final arc of this series. Before we kind of like move on to giving our review, though, there's a couple other things that I think we both wanted to address, and one of them was the Mandalorians and their small but important role in this episode. I really think
remove their helmet.
Well, because we've seen her before.
Yeah. That it threw me for a loop. To ever see a Mandalorian helmet come off that isn't Jango Fett from the prequels is always like, how do I feel about this? Now it makes sense for the character, and you're right. But when that happened, I was like, whoa, this is weird.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm pretty sure she's the sister of, I think her name was Satine, if I'm remembering correctly, who was the leader of Mandalore before Maul took over, before Maul started running the show. And Maul ended up killing her, which that was a good arc in and of itself. I mean, obviously that's not the episode we're talking about, but that was a good arc in and of itself, with the whole romantic interest with Obi-Wan and Satine and stuff like that. But this is Satine's sister, who, if you remember, Satine's sister, which again I'm forgetting her name right now, came back in the Clone Wars, or I'm sorry, in Rebels, and partook in the events that happened in Rebels as well. So like the whole interconnectivity between the two series, I love. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. We're supposed to be talking about this episode, but the Mandalorian's presence was a very, like, it was nice for them to be there, because obviously we know what's coming from like the trailer and stuff, but within the context of only watching the season of the show, their presence was like, oh, like it's a good lead up to what's about to come. So I'm excited to see how this final arc, these last episodes, are going to wrap up, and how everything is going to finish playing out. I'm gonna be very excited to see what happens. Do you have any kind of final thoughts before we go on to giving our ratings for this episode?
I did. Watching through this one, with the amount of emphasis they're putting on Ahsoka, I started to wonder if we're going to get more of Ahsoka, not in the Clone Wars, but are we going to get more of Ahsoka in the future? Is this kind of their trial for that? And if not, then they had an okay arc. It wrapped up well. I will say the kind of lull that this whole arc was definitely gave, like, I mean, I've verbally said Darth Maul with excitement. When the Mandos came on, they took the helmet off. I felt emotions very strongly. So to kind of see these things happen, I wonder if the idea was to change the pace so that when they got to the final arc, it was more of a shock. It was more memorable. It was a different kind of experience. So that's going to change my final review for sure. If that's the case, I mean, I can see what the next episode when they continue to segue out. But I'm wondering if we're going to get more Ahsoka. I wouldn't mind. In fact, I would encourage some more Ahsoka. I'd like to see what a disenchanted Jedi does.
Yeah.
Post Order 66.
Yeah.
Beyond what we see of later on in her life, I'd like to see, much like I'd like to see Obi-Wan between 3 and 4, I'd like to see Ahsoka between 3 and 4.
Yep.
More so.
Yep. And I'm 100% with you there. And I think we will see more Ahsoka between, well, maybe between 3 and 4, because have you watched all of Rebels? I don't remember whether or not you have. Okay, so yeah, tail end of Rebels, very end, we see Ahsoka and the girl who always did spray paint, which I'm forgetting her name right now, but like they are going after Ezra at the very end of Rebels, and I I think that that's probably going to be the next step that we see as far as animation goes, which I'm excited for personally. I want to see that. I've heard that they cast someone in the next season of The Mandalorian to play Ahsoka. Don't know if that's gonna be the case, but interesting little rumor there. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. I've not done any looking into it, but I think that would be interesting. They would have to do it well for me to be happy with it. But anyway, so it's time to go ahead and move on to rating this episode and this arc, because this was the wrap up of this arc and segue into the next one. So I would say for this episode in particular, I'm gonna give the episode, and actually I'm also going to give the arc as well, both 8s out of 10. I think this episode was done very well. Again, they had a really hard time selling me on the way that they wrote Trace, and I think that was probably the biggest, over the course of the entire arc, that was the biggest downer for me, is just like I wasn't sold on the way that they chose to write Trace. She just seemed too, for seemingly being almost the same age as Rafa, she seemed way too naive to me. Especially for like I understand if Rafa's like, oh, trying to want to shelter her from this, but I mean, come on, they've been living in the underworld for who knows how long. Like it was a hard sell for me, and because of that, it loses points. But overall, what I initially thought was a weak start to an arc turned out to be pretty solid, and I'm more than willing to give it an 8. I was happy with the way that it ended up turning out, regardless of my issues with some of the writing. So
okay,
that's my take on it.
I think I'm on the same boat. I'm on 8 and 8.
Okay.
I wouldn't have said that in the last episode. I would not have given this anywhere near an 8. But this episode kind of took the arc and threw a wrench in it. You know, hey, everything you've kind of gotten used to or bored to, acclimated to, and the names you're used to seeing, the faces you're hearing and seeing in terms of faces every episode for a while. We're gonna mix up a little bit. Here's some Maul, here's some Mandos. Here's some face-to-face interaction with the drug deal. Like that was pretty intense. I really enjoyed that. So to kind of see how that lull was brought to a close. I mean, next episode's probably the final close, but to watch that be brought to a close and me have invoked feelings, that's pretty good. And that's what Star Wars has always done to me. When Anakin brought out that lightsaber in episode 3 for the younglings, you feel, that's what this was doing to me. And I think I was, like you said, a good conclusion to, in my opinion, kind of a lull in the series.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. I'm with you there. So yeah. But anyways, guys, I think, and do you have any final thoughts you want to share before we wrap up, or is that pretty much concluded for this one?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think I'm good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, all right, guys. Well, thank you guys very much for continuing to tune in to this final Clone Wars season review series that we are doing. We're entering the final arc. I'm excited to kind of see how this wraps up. I really don't know. Obviously, we see what happens with Maul in Rebels, but where are things going to end up leading him? Because we first find him in on the Sith planet in Rebels, but how did he get there? What led him to falling from power, to falling out of grace with the Mandalorians and with really Palpatine as well? Because at the end of that whole arc in the last season that we saw him, he was like literally the last thing we see of him is him being electrocuted by Palpatine. So I'm gonna be curious to see where this all lands, and what led Maul to go where he ended up going. But guys, that, like I said, that wraps it for this episode. Let us know what your guys' thoughts are in the comments below. We want to go ahead and have those discussions. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure to follow myself over on mixer.com/JonoKolobi. Make sure to go ahead and follow him over on mixer.com/POISOnkill and youtube.com/realpoisonkill. And guys, that wraps it for this episode. This is the General M Poison, tuning out.